Hi, I think I am on. Not sure though. Um, just have to check I'm in the right spot. Yes, I am, sort of. Sort of mostly in the right spot. Oh, got the volume up. Now, how are you? How's your Monday going? Good? I hope it's going. Oh, I went the wrong way. I hope it's going well. Mine is, well, I'm still moving house, so it's still a bit all over the place, but, getting there. We're going to do some meditation. This isn't a class, it's just a chance to meditate together. So if you're, an experienced meditator, that's brilliant. Can you hang on, though, while I explain, as I say, what I do for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. These meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. And I'll explain all about further emergence when we're finished the meditation. So for me, well, there's lots of different types of meditation, I should say that before we start. And for me, it starts with why I would meditate. Like what is the reason? I am trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go to sleep. Not the dreaming bit, the bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming and then I drop out the bottom of dreaming into deep dreamless sleep where I have no thoughts, no feelings, no emotions, no personality, no memories, no body, really, no bed, no bedroom, nothing. It all just goes. I even disappear because I cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register my existence. So when you add all that up, that sounds awful. That sounds like death. And yet I love going to sleep. And when I wake up, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever I go is a good place. And that's where I want to go to when I meditate. I just want to do it consciously. So straight away, first tip, don't try this lying down. Because if you lie down, chances are you will battle sleep. And if you don't battle sleep, you may just flat out fall asleep, both of which are, counter to what we're trying to do. So, yeah, sit up. You don't have to sit in a lotus position or anything like that, unless you're comfortable sitting in a lotus position, in which case, great, go for it. I'm just sitting in a chair, but if you're going to sit in a chair, make sure it's not a big, comfortable armchair that, you may fall asleep in. So yes, a somewhat uncomfortable chair. So as I said, there's no, my mind can't seem to get to this place. There's no thoughts in this place that when I meditate. It's like a place it's like a room that I go into and my mind has to wait outside the door. So it's kind of boring for my mind. So having my mind on board for the whole idea of meditation is important. What I do is I just make an arrangement with my mind where I say, can you just not think for the next 15 minutes, please? Because we're going to meditate. Now, at this stage, my mind is on board for the whole procedure. Having your mind on board is really important. It only really becomes an issue if you have a long-term kind of meditation practice. First time you meditate, first 10 times you meditate, your mind will be fine because it's new and interesting and minds like that kind of thing. It only becomes a issue, as I say, when it's long term. Now, if you're having trouble with that, I will do my best to answer any questions you have about that after. So if you leave them in the comments, I can only see the comments on Instagram today. So if you leave them there, I will do my best to answer it. So having your mind on board is important. Next thing, stop thinking. Now, stopping thinking is easier than you would think. It's easy to stop. The difficulty is in maintaining the stopness because regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thought, the structure of my thought is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. Sound meaning the internal sound, not the external sound. Like, conversations I'm having with myself, monologues, internal conversations, that kind of thing. That's what I mean by sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel with the intention of meditation. Now, as I said, the intention of my meditation is to go to this deep, still, profound, calm, Zen-like place. You know all those words that I used to describe meditation, that place? And then the practice of meditation runs parallel to it together and starts pretty much as soon as I stop thinking. So generally it goes, I'll turn off the pictures, I'll turn off the sound, I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then some time will pass and I'll discover that I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then some more time will pass and I'll discover that I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then some more time will pass, I'll discover I'm thinking again. Oh, thinking again, and so on. So it's pretty simple. Every time I discover that I'm thinking, I bring myself back to not thinking. That's it. If you do that, you're doing great. Now, it's important to know that thinking can happen in meditation. It's quite easy to get the misconception that to meditate properly, you shouldn't be thinking at all, which isn't the case. Meditation or thinking can happen, and every time that does, if you just bring yourself back to not thinking, you're doing great. It's that simple, really. So while I'm doing all of that not thinking business, I'm also checking my body for tension, any tension that there might be in my body. So I'm sort of scanning my body from my head down to my feet, back up again, very slowly, very gently. Anywhere I find tension, I let it go. And I use my out breath to let it go because it's natural to just breathe it away. But it's also a good way to remember to breathe because it's quite easy to, with all that thinking, not thinking business going on, to hold my breath or to stop breathing. The other thing I do as I'm scanning my body, I just check areas that run crossways or transverse in my body, because mostly my body runs head to toe. Anywhere that goes across operates a little bit like a log going across a stream. You know, it picks up the log, the twigs and the leaves and all the stuff coming down the stream, except on my body, that's tension. So I spend a little bit more time on my eyes, their transverse side, my jaw, my tongue, base of my neck, my shoulder girdle, all my joints, they're transverse sites as well. So shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, and my ankles. Having a nice quiet room when you're starting out in meditation, because one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound, and as soon as I close my eyes to meditate, my hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room you have, the easier it'll be for you. And another thing I do to help my mind not get triggered to think is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. But if this is the first time you're meditating, I'd set yours for 5 minutes and then just repeat that 3 times, because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. Okay, I think I covered everything. Let's get on with it. Okay, and off we go. It's the mystery. minutes time. So as I said, these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. Further emergence has to do with growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness. You could call it spiritual growth, growth in awareness, all that sort of growth. Because your body stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. That continues on for your whole life. And just like when you were a kid, you might have gone through a period of accelerated growth in your body, they're called growth spurts. You go through the exact same thing on the inside, and they continue for your whole life as well, growth spurts. Big difference between an inner growth spurt and a growth spurt when you're a kid is, if when you were a kid and you had some growing pains and you went to your parents and said, I've got pains in my shins, and your parents would have said, oh yeah, they're growing pains, it's natural, I know it's difficult, but it's normal, it's natural, and it'll pass. They wouldn't have rushed you to the hospital, they wouldn't have rushed you to the doctor, or anything like that. Now, it's much harder to know that when you're going through an inner growth spurt, that it's natural and it's normal, when you're 50 or when you're 60 or when you're 30. And there's a much bigger space to feel like it's not normal, it's not natural, something's wrong, and you need to be fixed. So the overarching focus with further emergence is on growth, and then specifically those growth spurts. So these meditations are part of that support, because the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to navigate these inner growth spurts. Then there's a retreat every month, and that's a chance to meditate a bit more deeply, to ask questions, get feedback, and to see that you're not on your own. Because one of the aspects of when you're going through an inner growth spurt is to feel quite isolated, because you can almost overnight go from everybody understands you and you understand everybody to no one gets me, I don't understand anybody, what's going on? So to hear other people talking about their process and to ask questions and share, that's very helpful. So the retreats are great. They're the last Saturday of every month, and it's about a half a day, 4 hours usually. Then I work with people one-to-one. That's very helpful, because often how an inner growth spurt shows up is very different from one person to the next. The way it shows up. Some people it can be very physical, some people it's emotional, some people it's very spiritual in orientation. So I've been through lots of inner growth spurts myself, and I've helped lots of people through it as well. So getting very specific feedback is very helpful for your particular process. Then there's books. I've written 4 books, all roughly around the subject of further emergence. There's the YouTube channel, there's the podcast. So there's lots there. So if you're still with me, if you're all the way, if you're still listening, if you've watched all the way, then maybe some part of you is going, yeah, there's something to this. In which case, I'd encourage you to let that part of you tell you what the next thing for you is, whether it's to get in touch for some one-to-one, or to come to a retreat, or to just keep going with the meditation, or to listen to the podcast, or whatever, or none of the above. Maybe that's what it's going to say. Okay, so thanks for meditating with me. I'll see you on Wednesday.